All right, YouTube, we are live. I'm just opening up the doors here a little bit early to let some of you guys pop on through. While we wait for everybody to come on in, why don't you guys go ahead and say hello in the interactive chat? And we'll go ahead and get started on this one, guys. Oh boy, is crude moving right now. Good stuff. All right, so that's there. Let me throw YouTube on over here. And let's go ahead and get started. So, my name is Mark, and I'm coming at you guys from our headquarters here in Toronto, Ontario. This is our midday update for today's date of Wednesday, October the 9th, 2019. Hard to believe already, second week of October. And let's go ahead and get this guy complete here, guys. This is the second week of Q4. Yep, second week of Q4. And markets are slowly starting to pick up. I'm seeing S&P 500 finally starting to move now. We have had a very quiet session up until this point here. Traders are keeping a close eye on FOMC minutes coming in just about an hour. And we also had Fed Chair Powell speaking at 11 a.m. And now we're finally seeing some movement, a lot of movement on the SPOOs. All right, so let's go ahead and look at some of the remarks from today's session. Okay, there was a squawk. Not very important. So, U.S. Session, we did have a couple of economic announcements that came through. We had final wholesale month or final wholesale inventories, the month-over-month figures. Those came in at 0.2% versus 0.4 expected. We also had JOLTS, job opening and labor turnover survey. That is a light impact event that came in at a miss as well, 7.05 million versus 7.35 million expected. So a bit of a miss on that front. Sorry, got some more squawks coming through here. That doesn't sound that important. During the U.S. session, we also had China Global Times editor-in-chief Hu Zhijin, who is likely has ties to the state in China, since this editor-in-chief has been super vocal on this trade war throughout the whole, pretty much throughout this whole year, and likely has state connections. And so Hu Zhijin mentioned that some reports said Chinese delegation will cut short its stay in Washington, but based on what I know, the delegation plans to leave Friday night, which means they will complete the scheduled consultation agenda. From a working perspective, this is no different from leaving on Saturday. So again, this kind of goes back on some criticism that Chinese officials were looking to cut short that meeting between them and the states with regards to some of these trade talks. So that's pretty much what we had on this session. Just looking through the news squawk here, and I'm not really seeing any comments out of Powell's speech this morning at 11. And so I don't really think there was very much important said. Granted, we are seeing a bit of a bid here on the equities, especially on the S&P 500. But we do have FOMC at 2 p.m. Eastern time, and so that's likely going to be another driver. Once I show you guys the charts, you will see exactly how range bound these markets were leading up to this event, and we literally just broke above the current opening range high resistance above the 18 halves, and that took us a good 4 hours since the market opening. So this is kind of just showing you the kind of session it's going to be. Granted, now we've broken out of that consolidation, so we'll look for follow through. That being said, we do have FOMC at 2 p.m. Eastern time. So I anticipate a little bit more consolidation leading into that report. All right, that's what we got on there. As I said, 2 p.m. Eastern time, we will have FOMC meeting minutes. At right around this time, there is the 10-year bond auction going on. Not a very high impact event for equities, but like I said, 2 p.m. is going to be the big one for these equity markets. Crude, not really going to get too affected by this, but if you do see the dollar start to rip, watch the inverse correlation there. Crude oil is inversely correlated to the US dollar. So typically when you see the US dollar driving up, you'll see crude getting a little bit of pressure, and the opposite will hold true as well. If the dollar is tanking, you'll generally see crude catching a bit of a bid. Right, that being said, let's switch over to the charts now, and let's do some of this analysis. Let me get my quote board up here and change my pen color to, let's make it orange. That's my color for today. All right, guys, so here's my quote board. Let me drag that into screen for you guys. And what you will see first and foremost, if you guys have been tracking along with these midday updates, I like to look at the volume into this part of the session, and volume is okay. Typically we'd like to see 1 to 1.5 million contracts by this part of the session. We're seeing a little bit less than that, 843,000. And again, this is likely due to the fact that we're seeing a little bit more volume than usual, but it's not as much as we typically tend to see, and that likely is due to the FOMC statement coming out at 2. If that statement wasn't coming out, I imagine there'd be a little bit more volume, but the fact that that statement is coming out at 2 p.m. I do anticipate a bunch of traders are waiting for that to be released before looking to open or close out their positions. All right, so I anticipate this to pick up into that announcement. As it stands, that's where we're at. Daily change percentage up 0.90%. Where was our previous day close? Previous day close was the 28.94 quarters, and the last traded price is the 29 or 29.18s. All right, so we are up a little bit. We are also above our US session open. However, when you look at these charts, guys, I'm going to do this a little bit differently today. I'll do the S&Ps first and then cover crude. When you look at these charts, what I'm seeing here on this pivot chart is that, yeah, we did have a bit of a gap down on Sunday. We closed that gap here, rotated, failed, and we came down, pressed below these lows, broke the new lows here, but on this rotation, we didn't quite sink back to fresh lows. We actually held that low and popped higher, taking out that previous swing high here and forming what looks like a potentially higher low. We've had this pullback down to the pivot, which is kind of holding at this point in time 29.10s. All right, so this is slowly starting to look like we might be potentially transition back up to the upside. Looks like we might want to try those 29.50s by the end of today's session if the bulls are to step through. That being said, what we need to see happen is the market stay above 29.10. If we remain above the pivot, we'll likely have another test of the current session highs and then looking into the previous day highs around those 29.60s. So that's what the pivot chart is showing me. What the actual tick chart is showing me here, guys will see this one is a bit choppy, but we did have a bit of a gap into the Globex session. Actually, quite surprising to see that there was a gap. Nonetheless, there was a gap, and that gap took us from the 34 quarters down into what looks like the 27s or so. So pretty nice gap there, which has yet to be filled. All right, so anytime there's a gap, we typically fill that gap before we move on. Case in point was that gap from the weekend. If I can find it on here, there it is. All right, so if I can find that gap, here's the gap. We gap down. Look what happened. We filled that gap here before we pressed lower. And again, we're kind of in a similar situation where we've gapped down. We've tried the previous day high. If we can get back above that previous day high, the 24.3 quarters, that's likely going to give us that vacuum back up into those 34 quarters. And then back above that, you guys are seeing my zones and these little red lines. These are actual orders on the DOM, and you guys are seeing quite a big stack of orders coming all the way up into those 50s, which, surprise, surprise, looks like the weekly high so far. So the weekly high sitting right around those 29.60s, and we've got a solid amount of offers sitting up above that. So just looking at what we've seen today, this has been very, very choppy. This is the opening range high, opening range low, and you guys can see up until I'd say probably noon, we were just kind of hanging around in this little range, very choppy range, not very much follow through, very easy to get trapped on these breakdowns below VWAP. Looking for the continuation and then for it to only come up. So it's been one of those days, kind of like a call them Z days. So Z-Day is something like that, where you get stopped out on the lows trying to short, then you get stopped out on the highs trying to long. And that being said, we did have the breakout over that level here. You can see we did consolidate that level for a bit before pressing on up to the previous day high. Obviously, we're finding some support here, or not support, some resistance, which is okay to see given the fact that we did see some nice selling from there in the morning, or rather during the Globex session. Now we've come up and retested it. The key question here comes on this rotation down. Do the bulls come back in to hold this thing as support? And do they try to press this thing back up above that previous day high? That's kind of what I'm looking for. And I think the next best trade for me in this kind of a situation, what I'll be looking to qualify is basically a continuation move of what we've seen here. So we've had this little consolidation, breakout, comes back in, consolidation. I'd like to see the breakout above that level. I'd like to see it consolidate a little bit, similar to what we saw here. So nice little breakout, similar to this, come back down, consolidate that level, and then look to pick it up for that run to those overnight highs to fill that gap. That's honestly where I'm gonna go. The short side for me, really should have gone here and really should have gone here. The fact that they didn't, and the fact that we're back above the open and above the opening range, suggests to me that the sellers had their chance. They weren't able to sink this thing, and now the buyers have their the spotlight. Balls in their court. Do they bring it up or not? If not, we'll just be stuck in a range for the remainder of the session, which is also possible. So that's kind of what we're watching for here. Not really interested in anything short unless we get back below that key level over here in the 2908. That being said, if we do get down there, just beware that we've tried it once, we've tried it twice. Both times it looked like it was going to go and then it reversed. Looked like it was going to go and it reversed. So just be careful trying to short this thing down here. What you would need to see is a nice clean breakdown below this level, something like a breakdown like that. If you get a breakdown like that below the level, and then you get the little curl up, right? You get that little curl up, then you can hit it over the head. If you just get a little baby breakdown here and it just reverses right away, you've likely got some trap shorts and they're going to press it on up. All right, so that's what we got on the S&P 500. On crude oil, we have pretty okay volume, 446,000 contracts traded. We are up on the session 0.6%. Previous day close was 52.55s, and we last traded price was 52.94. So we are up from the previous day close, but we are below the pit session open. So again, bit of mixed signals on this market, whereas S&Ps are both above their previous day. Oops, are they? Yeah, where they are above their previous day close, which is right here, previous day close, and they are still above their open. So bullish indicator on that front, also bullish indicator on this front. Whereas crude oil is a bit mixed. We are above the previous day close, but below the pit open. So what I'm anticipating is a retest of that pit open, given the fact that we've kind of topped out around those 53.60s and we've seen a pretty aggressive sell-off into those previous day highs. All right, if the bulls are going to defend this, they're going to do it here. All right, so going back to our pivot charts, what do you guys see? Well, I'm still seeing an overall bear trend. We did try to form some higher lows and higher highs here. That kind of failed on this breakdown here, where we got a new lower low. And from this one, we've actually come up and retested this previous swing high, but we've poked our heads above it. But what you guys are seeing is there's obviously resistance as we've had a breakout, rotation, breakout, and now we're rotating back down again. So it looks like the sellers have come in to defend that level, the 53.60s, and we are back below R1 right now. R1 is 53.12. All right, so 53.12 is basically your Globex VWAP. All right, so if I look at this market here, I see nice top there, another nice top there, a nice quick aggressive sell-off. And one thing you'll notice on this sell-off is that volume was kind of picking up. And then once we've kind of come in here, we're also seeing um, baby volume, right? Baby volume on this rotation up. So if we keep floating on up and this volume remains low, that's likely a sign that selling is going to continue. We're just making a little rotation. So as we rotate up, keep a close eye on volume, seeing what it does. If it starts picking up, you might just have the longs pressing this thing back up. However, if it creeps up and we start seeing volume kind of dying off, that could be your sign that sellers are looking to pick this thing up again and smash it back over the head. So we've had a pretty aggressive sell-off, right? Last time we kind of sold off from that level. Where did that initial bounce come up into? Right around those 53.30s or so. This time around, let's see what happens. Last time it came to the 30s, tried to retest the lows. We'll see if it pulls up as high this time. Ideally, it doesn't. Ideally, it makes a lower high on this course as it comes up. You got 5-day point of control. You've got the open. You've got Globex VWAP. You've got a lot of stuff in the way of higher prices here. So that's what I'm looking at between these. What's that? 11 and the 19s or so should offer some nice resistance on this thing. And again, I'm just looking for this to break below these lows. You guys will see we did hold this level here. This was a pretty strong level. We have held it quite a few times today, and now we're retesting it again. So if this thing goes, it should be quite an aggressive sell-off to take out the sell stops of any buyers that got long in here, long in here, long in here, and anybody that didn't get paid up there and bought it down there, you can best believe their stops are sitting back below that. And the longer that we kind of rotate here, the more stops that you'll have sitting back down below there. As price is kind of holding it up, you'll have faders looking to fade it back up, and that results in sell stops. And if they fail to get it back up, those sell stops are likely going to get flushed, and your target to the downside being previous day close, and below that your overnight low at the 52.30s. All right, so that's what we got on both of these markets. As I said, we've got FOMC statement at 2 p.m., so in about 45 minutes or so. And in the interim, let's show you guys how the team did today. All right, guys, so those are the numbers for October. Today's date was the 9th, and our team pretty much the same results, surprisingly enough, as yesterday, 61.22%, leading into our sign off around 11:30 this morning. Of those, stop that, Excel. Of those, 36% were up, 25% were flat, and just under 40% were down on the session. So overall, 61.22%. If you combine these two, that's what gives you this number. And so we're looking like we're doing pretty good in October so far. Let's just see what the current number is up to. That is number 6. 6. All right. So we are actually at 73.51% average for the month of October. So again, pretty good start. We've kind of let off the gas pedal in the last couple of days, but the beginning of August was a really great, or October was a really great start. I'm going to look to continue that into the remainder of this week and into the remainder of October. I'm going to look to finish this puppy off strong and hit all-time highs going into 2020. All right, so that was the update for today, guys. Hope you guys enjoyed this one. Just looking at crude, she is wasting no time making those fresh lows back below the previous day high here. I should see this thing start to rotate off and look for a continuation lower on the back of that. All right, let's take a look at the chat here. Who has said hello? John, hello. Good afternoon from Scotland, UK. Awesome. Welcome, John. Hello from across the pond. Craig, good to see you in here. Willie boy, I hope you're doing well in Madrid. I know you're enjoying those vacations because we're not seeing you as much in the room, but that's what it's all about. Get some time to travel. 77 figures. Does anybody on here know if NinjaTrader? 77 figures. Unfortunately, we use Sierra charts, and we had interesting discussions with Ninja, and decided not to pursue that route. So unfortunately, we're not too familiar with NinjaTrader, but I do know that they have a order flow suite which may be what you're looking for. I do believe they have like third-party add-ons for Ninja. I'm not too familiar with the platform in itself, but I do know that they do have third-party add-ons, and one of them, I believe, is the order flow suite for Ninja Trader. Ninja Trader order flow suite. I think it's something like this. 77 figures. I'm not too sure what your name is. I'll just call you 77. But this is, I believe this is it. Order flow trading, just Ninja. And what you're looking for is this guy. So you got a bunch of volume profiles showing up on there. All right. So I hope that helps. Craig, my great pleasure. Happy to be here and thankful and appreciative of you guys for showing up here. I know how tough it can be to get away from your screen, so I do appreciate you guys taking your time and joining me on these updates. All right, so that is what I got for today. Let me get back to the camera and do our sign out here. If you guys will be trading into the FOMC statements, make sure to follow those 3 rules. Volatility is likely to pick up, so make sure to have a plan. Number 1, make sure to have a risk management plan. It can get exciting, yes, if the market starts to move, but it's very easy to kind of discern your risk management when there's volatility because you see the volatility, and even if you get stopped out on one, you might keep trying and trying and trying, and that's fine if it's part of the plan. If you've got the risk management strategy for that, you can go ahead and do that. But if you don't have a risk management plan, just plan for the volatility, because volatility is one of those things that's a double-edged sword. Yes, it can give you additional opportunity, but volatility in the hands of amateurs tends to show not how amateur you are, but tends to bring out the lack of experience in volatility. All right, so make sure you have a plan, and you can do what's called a Georgian Gale. He's in his earphone, so he didn't hear that. What's called a Georgian Gale, which is essentially having an idea for a level, trying it out. If you get stopped out, you can try it again one more time, but after that, you're basically done. You got to wait for another level to get hit. All right. Do you expect S&P to fall after the minutes? 77 figures. I don't come into the market with an expectation of anything. I have my ideas, you guys, and I kind of discussed those with you. So I have my ideas. I have what we like to call our next best trades. All right, so next best trade simply means that I'm already anticipating where I'm going to get long or short depending on if then scenarios. Bless George. Depending on if then scenarios. Right, so similar to how we do these updates, I kind of give you guys the scenarios that I'd be looking for. And so if it happens, I'm already expecting it and I'm ready to pull the trigger. If it doesn't happen, I've got my other scenario, my bearish scenario. So it's always good to have 2 kinds of scenarios, an idea of where you'd get long, an idea of where you'd get short. That way, you prevent emotional trading. You're not really getting sucked into what the market's doing. You've already got an idea of what you're doing. You've got that overall roadmap. 2920 level. Yeah. Yeah. So that's really the level that should hold. These 18 halves or so, this is a level that should hold if we're going to continue going up. It might pop down to the 2908s, but ideally it holds those 2918s or so, right around where we're at now, to be honest. Maybe even a bit lower, 16.75, 17s, and we should see a press up. That being said, I'd be looking to get long if we can get above that previous day high and hold some support vis-a-vis some rotations. All right. Yeah, yeah, 77 figures exactly. So just having a plan, and that's what it's all about. Like I said, volatility can bring out the amateur in you, but it's your job to kind of have that plan and not to fumble when the volatility comes out. Yeah, Trump's likely going to tweet something. Um, that being said, if the market is on new lows on the back of this report, wouldn't be surprised to see a Trump tweet come out if we do dump below 2908. Um, I don't really anticipate a Trump tweet if the market starts rallying. He tends to be very good at coming in when the market's near overnight lows and stirring up some commotion. And then, 2 hours later, coming back and China says, no, we didn't agree to that, um, which is what it is. But that's given us opportunity in these markets. All right, so I'm gonna cut this guy off. I do appreciate you guys being in here, as I said, and we will see you tomorrow. So if you will be trading, remember those 3 rules: where's the camera? Patience, diligence, and discipline. Again, if you do enjoy these updates, please, please, please make sure to smash that like button. That really helps us with the YouTube algorithm, puts us out in front of other people like yourselves that might be looking for some analysis, or looking for a place to call home in a community. All right. So thank you guys again so much for your time. And until tomorrow, good luck and good trading. Take care.